Cosplayers of Reddit. What is the cringiest interaction you've had at an event? Story 1. Some girl asked me to sing a duet in the karaoke room, which I agreed to. 30 seconds in, and I realized that it's some anime song that is sung in Japanese, and it's 8 minutes long. Longest and most cringiest 8 minutes of my life while butchering the Japanese language in front of an audience. Story 2. I was dressed as Edward Elric, friend was dressed as Envy from FMA. The show was still super popular back then, and glomping was a thing. Some girl ran up behind me at top speed and jumped on my back, and I'm tall, not short like Ed, and bashed me into a table and brought me to my knees. It was horribly embarrassing and painful. Story 3. More funny than cringy, but my husband doesn't really attend cons anymore because he feels he's too old for them. Before he stopped going, we attended Anime Central in 2002 in Chicago. We passed by a group of Harry Potter cosplayers wearing striped scarves, and my husband turned to me and said, "It's good to know kids still like Doctor Who." Story 4. I was cosplaying as Red X from Teen Titans, and I had this 16-year-old girl dressed as Raven follow me around and try and get me to kiss her all day long. I was 20 at the time. Edit. I didn't kiss her BTW. Story 5. I dressed as Rose Quartz from Steven Universe, and a neckbeard type guy sort of dressed as a character from the same show approached me by coming up right behind me and said, "Rose my waifu," while I was talking to a vendor. He had the greasiest hair I have ever seen and really bad BO. He asked for a pic, and I said okay. And then he asked to pose with me kissing his cheek, and I said no. He got upset and said that I had to because he loved Rose, blah blah blah, and I didn't know how to disengage. Funnily enough, a Pearl cosplayer intervened and told him to beat it. Story 6. I was cosplaying a popular children's show character, Buster from Arthur. A mom tried flirting with me in front of her child after taking the photo. "What you doing later? Want to grab a coffee?" The worst I've seen? This guy fully walks up to this girl and cups her breast. He wanted to see if they were real. Edit. Here is a video of pictures me and other people took of my cosplay. Story 7. I dressed up as Abraham Lincoln to go see the Lincoln movie. My buddy dressed up as John Wilkes Booth. I had an extremely emotional interaction with a man of color as he thanked me for abolishing slavery. That in itself wasn't cringy. What was cringy was that everyone thought I was weird for dressing up. Story 8. When I was in college, I went to a small cosplay event wearing a cardboard box that says Gundam on it. This middle-aged suburban mom stopped me and looked to her fedora-wearing college-age son and asked him in an almost baby voice, "Do you want to take a picture with the Gundam?" I agreed to it, but I felt like a birthday party mascot getting a picture with the kids, except this kid was about my age. Further back, in high school, my at-the-time girlfriend and I went to a cosplay gathering. I made some comment about Macross Frontier. It's a show about pretty boys and giant robots, or something along those lines. I still haven't finished that show. And then some neckbeard with 10 years on us felt the need to sit down by us, whip out his laptop, and pull up 4chan to school us on mecha anime. Story 9. Had small cake pieces with me for friends, carried it in an open plastic box in my hands. In the tram to the convention, I met an older lady. We started talking about my costume and why all these funny-looking people are here for and so on. While I explained it to her, she was suddenly looking for something in her handbag, pulled out a small plastic spoon, and helped herself with my cake while listening to me. I was too confused to say anything and let her finish. I even jumped out of the tram station earlier because I was worried about more cake being eaten. Weird story, but looking back now, I should have offered her more. I don't know what it takes to make you eat a stranger's cake in a tram without asking first if you can have some. Story 10. Can I be the cringe? I cosplayed Naruto when I was 13, and a Sasuke cosplayer who was 14 made out with me, which was basically biting my mouth. It went semi-viral on YouTube to the point where I was offered money. I had forgotten about the video until that email, and then decimated my whole YT account when I was 15-16. Good lord, I was a horrible weeb. I have so many stories. Edit. For those asking for a link, I deleted the entire YouTube account that the video was on and made sure that the video was gone. If you want to root around for it, it was called something along the lines of Epic Sasunaru Makeout, Battle for Dominance. Story 11 went to a con as Zuko from Avatar. An Aang cosplayer approached me excitedly to talk about the show, but after 10 minutes, pulled out his phone and wanted me to read their X-rated Avatar, Aang Katara FYI fanfic. Proceeded to tell me how long he's been working on the fic and how he was planning out the rest of the story to have books like the show itself. This thing looked to be novel length by this point. I politely excused myself and left, but this guy found me on FB later on and sends me NSFW Avatar fan art every now and then. Story 12. Cringy and hilarious. So at my first con, I was dressed as Silk Spectre 2, comic book version. I was still using my cane because I was only a year out from my accident, and this guy decides that obviously I'm his one true love or something, and I'm not able to hustle away fast enough to escape easily. I lose him a few times, but he keeps popping up hitting on me and making comments about how I should have been Silk Spectre I. This is at least 2 or 3 hours of this Romeo following me around. Well, somehow I managed to lose him, and I end up asking this beefy old dude if he minds that I take the unoccupied chair at his table, since my hips and legs are acting up. Half an hour later, we're chatting and having a good old time when my Romeo shows up. Romeo looks at me. Romeo looks at beefy old guy. Beefy old guy looks at me, and I guess I must look scared or creeped out or something, because beefy old guy just stands up and leans real close to Romeo's face and says, "Can I help you with something?" Romeo fucks off. I eventually get up and walk away when the table gets busy. Glance at the banner above the table as I walk away. Beefy old guy was Lou Ferrigno. Story 13. I dressed as Junkrat for a con. At the time, I had no idea how many kids played Overwatch. So for the entire day, all I got was 10-year-olds shouting references and wanting photos with me, and their parents giving me strange looks. Story 14. I cosplayed Frank N. Furter from the Rocky Horror Picture Show at a Comic-Con about a year ago. I had a lot of pleasant interactions with other cosplayers during the day. Lots of, "Ooh, I love that movie. Hey, do the time warp," sort of conversations. A few people hit on me. I'm a woman in fishnets and a corset at a Comic-Con. That was expected. Nothing too weird or uncomfortable. And then there was this one dude and his friend. They kept following me around, talking to me about weirdly personal topics and getting far too handsy. Eventually, I started to get nervous, so I excused myself to the bathroom. I just wanted to distance myself from them a little. As I go to leave, the guy goes, "Wait, before you go, can I get a picture?" "Okay, fine. Just take a photo, then leave me alone." So the guy grabs me, picks me up, throws me over his shoulder so Maya's sticking up in the air, in fishnets and bikini bottoms, and his buddy takes a picture. Then he drops me back on the ground, and the two guys take off. It all happened in about 10 seconds, so I barely had time to react. Some guy dressed as Deadpool helped me up and walked me to the security booth to report the guys, but nothing ever came of it. So weird, cringy, and terrifying. I don't cosplay Frank anymore. TLDR. Dressed up like Tim Curry. Got my butt aggressively photographed. Story 15. At Anime Matsuri last month, I was cross-playing as Prompto with my friend as Noctis, a much younger Noctis cosplayer. They looked to be about 13, 14, whereas we're in our mid-20s. Came up to us and said their Prompto really wanted to meet us. We followed this Noctis cosplayer over to their group of friends, introduced ourselves to the other Prompto, took some selfies, had some laughs. Apparently, the kids felt super comfortable around us, because they then proceeded to pull out their sketchbooks and show us the explicit fan art they'd drawn while loudly describing each pornographic scene in detail. Needless to say, my friend and I exchanged a look of abject horror and hightailed it out of there, torn between feeling utterly skeevy and biting down the urge to call their mothers. Obviously, there are kids who wander into the NSFW side of fandom. I'm sure we all had our instances of saying we were 18 plus when prompted to on AFF, Net, LJ, etc. back in the day. But to have literal children showing me the they drew in real life was positively jarring. Edit, grammar. Story 16. I witnessed a Pedobear cosplay throw a little girl over his shoulder and run off. Little girl was fine, but later told me and the group we'd been dancing with she didn't know the guy. So that's pretty. Yeah. Story 17 was cosplaying Black Cat from Spider-Man. It was a very tight and form-fitting costume, and I opted not to wear underwear, because you could very clearly see the lines in the costume if I did. Had a guy come up behind me and unzip my suit, which wouldn't have been so bad if the zipper didn't go all the way down to the bottom of my. For about 10 seconds, my pale back and was very much exposed. Edit spelling. Edit of the edit. Removed the photo links. Story 18. Few years back, my then-girlfriend was cosplaying Chell from Portal at a con. It was mostly great. Everyone and their mom wanted a photo with her, except this one guy who decided to grill her on how much she really knew about Portal. He was looking at her like he'd just found a unicorn, but she was pissed as that some stranger thought she needed to prove herself to him. I think he thought he was flirting. Story 19. So I went to my first con a few years ago. I wasn't brave enough to dress up, so I wanted to take pics, etc. I saw a really amazing Doctor Who cosplay, so I asked him for a hug and pic. He was really enthusiastic about it, and we had a pic ready to go until I heard a gruff, "Hurry up, other people want a hug too." This large middle-aged lady in a tight tank top was giving us this glare. Legit, the cosplayer went from happy to miserable as soon as we took a pic. Like, holy cow, the cosplayers aren't props, they're people. Don't demand physical contact, you have to ask. He definitely didn't give up a hug for her. This year, I'll be doing a dress-up cosplay, and I hope that I'll be fine. Story 20 cringiest in terms of, dude, this is just uncomfortable for everyone. Last year, I cosplayed as Mettaton from Undertale. It's the end of the day. My feet fucking kill from wearing 7-inch plus heels. Our train is nearing. People are clearing out. And as I'm leaning on my friend to adjust my boots, a woman just stops in front of me and starts taking pictures. I politely say, "Sorry, but can you not take pictures of me, please?" And she just looks around the phone and then continues to take them. I have a lot of body issues and a lack of confidence, so wearing a lycra bodysuit took a lot of lady for me. And if those photos surfaced showing me in the awkward and unflattering poses I was in, I'd probably just hang myself there and then. No matter what we said to this woman, she just kept taking pictures. It resulted in my friend having to stand between us yelling, "She doesn't fucking want a photo," while I adjusted before she got the hint. And even then, she still tried to come around the side to sneak more. Cringiest for me personally? Same event, except a greasy, sweaty neckbeard comes up and practically breathes down my neck to ask for a picture. And then he asked me to pose in certain ways for him. The character is a flamboyant celebrity robot, so I'm set with my poses anyway, but squatting with my knees apart, among others, gathered a, no thanks, mate. And then I catch him taking photos after I've turned around to leave. I was 15, man. That's not on. He showed no shame, so it was just uncomfortable. Story 21 went with a Comic-Con with my girlfriend, who was dressed as Black Canary. I was Green Arrow. Naturally, some people asked for pictures of us with us. Alright, cool, no big deal. What was weird were the amount of guys that wanted a picture of just her. One guy even came up, asked if he could take a picture with us, and after we agreed, he handed me the camera. Oh, okay, I see what this is. But the cringiest moment was this one guy, maybe 20 years older than us. He asked for a picture of her, was used to it at this point, so it's whatever. Then proceeds to spend a good 60 seconds taking the photo. I don't know if he was taking multiple photos or trying to get the perfect pic or what, but ain't no way it takes you a full minute to take a single photo on a cell phone. Still, the day was super fun, and hopefully we get a chance to go back in the future. Story 22. A few years ago, I was cosplaying as a popular cartoon character. Rhymes with even reverse. And my mom had just gotten a hot dog or something and sat down to eat. She called me on my phone and told me to come over, which I agreed. She introduced me to some 20-something guy that was cosplaying from the same show as me. I wouldn't consider it exactly a cosplay since he was wearing the shirt flip-flops of the character. I was happy, though confused, since I had only been gone for like 10 minutes. But I still chatted with said guy for a few minutes. He seemed odd, but I guess nice. I got up since I usually walk around in cosplay for the day, but the guy stopped me. He smiled and asked for a quick photo. And I glanced at my mom, and she gave me the look of, please be nice and do it. And I did it. After the photo, he gave me his email and told me to send it to him or something. I don't remember, but all I remember was him giving me his email. And when I left, the guy proceeded to follow me all around the convention center for 2 hours. I tried to be nice the first hour of it, and just chattered and tried my best to be friendly, and after 2 hours, I quickly said, bye, and ran. TLDR, if you like someone's cosplay, great. Take a picture with them, but please, do not follow. Try to hang out with them for 2 hours. Edit. My mom wanted me to come over to meet him and to give me a little coin purse she bought for me. She thought it was adorable that we were cosplaying the same show and wanted to see us in a picture together. Edit 2. Whoa. I didn't really expect such a response to this odd story. Thanks, guys. Story 23. I was dressed as Mermaid Man from SpongeBob. I went up to a table to buy a poster and the guy was like, "Hey, there's Barnacle Boy here." I said, "Where?" Because I saw no Barnacle Boy at the con yet. He said, "You." And everyone laughed because they didn't realize I was not Barnacle Boy, and they thought I forgot what my costume was. Fuck that guy, I'm Mermaid Man. Story 24. My husband and I went to Middle TN Anime Convention, and there was a guy cosplaying as Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls. We were dressed as Dipper and Wendy, and went to a photo shoot, and the Bill Cipher guy was way too into character. Story 25. Cosplayed as the Quantum Ranger at Power Morphicon. I'm a girl. This random guy wouldn't leave me alone. He's in the background of some of my pictures, just staring at me. I finally got rid of him, after he kept shoving his astromorpher in my face by telling him I had two at home. I feel bad for the guy as he has obvious mental problems, but he was ultra creepy. Story 26. Currently manning a table at Balticon, I was in costume yesterday as Baron Saturday. I'm a female and I was feeling pretty good in my costume, but a neckbeard came by to talk to my friend who he knew, and in the middle of their convo, he caught my eye and threw me the sleaziest wink I've ever seen. After he left, my friend told me he's in an open relationship, and that he and his girlfriend have orgies at nearly every con they work. I try to avoid him, but he stops by our table a lot. Edit. Added an ending. Story 27. Had to stop talking to this super lovely Edward Elric cosplayer. It was her first con, she was so sweet, because a guy she was with, who was wearing a clearly for children Deadpool costume, would not stop flirting with my two friends. They're dating and were literally stood in front of this guy holding hands and referred to each other as girlfriends. He was just so cringy. Had other people who would not stop touching my costume, which, okay, I wear real chainmail, it's interesting, but I was just in line to pay for my drink. Story 28. My sister and I were cosplaying two dudes, I'm also a girl, who were popularly shipped together. We were followed around all 3 days of the convention by a girl who wanted us to make out for photos. She also encouraged us to buy anything related to the series in the dealer hall, which was annoying and weird. She found us again the next year too, and was incredibly obnoxious to our friend who was cosplaying a different show. Story 29. Oh man, myself and a few friends occasionally go to local cons just to hang out, drink, and buy some merch. But I'll never forget a local con in early fall of 2008. We usually never went in cosplay, but Gurren Lagann was still in a fever pitch of popularity at the time, and one of my friends was really big on it and went dressed as Kamina, while the rest of us still went in regular clothes. It is worth noting that said particular friend is a decent-looking 6'4" fellow and was training for marathon running at the time, so he pulled off a pretty good Kamina. It turned into a day from nerd. From the moment we walked into the main hall, he was assaulted in nearly every manner by girl and guy alike. Tons of people wanted pictures with him or of him posing. Endless pictures. And countless times random girls and a couple guys would run out of nowhere and jump onto him, which resulted more often than not him nearly dragged to the ground by these random attackers. I can actually still to this day remember one girl screaming, "Kamina-san, I love you," as she flung herself at my friend. He did his damnedest to be nice friendly for pictures, while the rest of us spent more time acting as impromptu bodyguards for him, then enjoying the convention. Needless to say, he doesn't care much to cosplay these days. Story 30. Not really cosplay, but at the midnight showing of the last Harry Potter movie, I was dressed in a Slytherin shirt with a house scarf. I was standing with some friends and some girl came up to me and said I was everything that was wrong in this world. I asked what she was talking about and she yelled, "Anyone who truly likes Slytherin is a bane on humanity." I just stared as her friends took her away. Story 31. My girlfriend and I do Cosmo and Wanda from the Fairly Odd Parents. Pretty simple cosplays, and I was super excited. The GF gets nervous in large crowds, so we stayed on the outskirts of the crowd for the most part. A lot of people asked for photos, and we had a pretty good time. During the end of the day, the GF is getting tired, and so we relax in a chair. She sat in my lap since the chair was small, in the lobby of the hotel. Classic Neckbeard comes up to us and makes it very clear that he is interested in a threesome and propositions us, even though we state multiple times that we are in an exclusive monogamous relationship. After denying his offers multiple times and him not getting the hint, I fake a call from a friend and claim that, "Oh, our Timmy cosplayer is looking for us, we have to go." And we promptly found a new place to relax on the other side of the con. Story 32. This is probably not the kind of cringe you're looking for, but here's mine. I'm all dressed up in my classic Trek uniform at SDCC and watching all these anime cosplayers go by. My thought process. 1. I have no idea what all these fandoms are. 2. But at least everybody recognizes what I'm dressed as. 3. 4. Shit. There's probably a whole generation of nerds now who've never watched an episode of Trek in their whole lives. D. Story 33. I was wearing the Savior's hide armor from Skyrim at a convention when this fanboy, imagine the type, hefty, kinda sweaty, wearing a t-shirt he's probably owned since the late 90s, asked me for a photo of the costume and asked what it was. I replied that it was Savior's hide, the werewolf armor from Skyrim. As I said so, I pointed to the wolf face that makes up the cuirass. He wasn't satisfied with this answer and replied, "Oh yeah, a dragon head. Your armor totally looks like a dragon head. It's based on a wolf actually. The quest is about a werewolf. Really though, it's a dragon head." Okay? Story 34. OMG. I still have chills to this day. So around 2 years ago, I was at a pretty large anime convention, and this guy came up to me and asked for a photo. Anyone who's been to a con knows this is perfectly normal, but it was how he wanted me to pose that creeped me out. I gave him my standard photography pose, but he was like, "Actually, can you sit on the floor for this photo?" I was a bit confused but didn't really question it, and did as he said. It wasn't until he was crouching down with me and asking me to take off my shoes that I realized he was trying to take pictures of girls' feet for his foot fetish. At that time I was underage, 17, and it still gives me chills to this day to think I could have ended up in his fetish folder. Or worse, on some shady-ass site without my knowledge or consent. Story 35. I brought my little brother with me to a con, 10 years old at the time, doing a cosplay from RWBY. He was Sun and I was Blake, so we matched. Anyway, my costume included a crop top. Tons of people thought our matching costumes were adorable and well made, so we spent the day taking pictures with people. It was great, my little brother loved it, and everyone was super polite and asked before taking pictures. As we were about to leave, this really awful slob of a guy asks for my picture. I agree. Now, I'm a minor, and I definitely look like it. This person was about 40 and overtly disgusting. And pose. He asks a passerby to take the photo, which already is creepy, as only a few people asked for photos with us and they were always kids, and wraps my hand around my bare waist. And as he steps away, brushes his hand over mine. I was close to tears and had to not say anything because I didn't want to upset my brother. TLDR. Don't gripe minors at a con peel. Story 36. I do Morty from Rick and Morty, and people won't let up when I tell them my Rick is A, and I left. They'll try to grab me to scream in my ear like Rick would, and I have to literally push them off. Then I'll meet up with my Rick, my twin brother, and he'll start screaming in my ear. Ugh, being Morty is hard work. Story 37, I cosplayed as George Harrison in his Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band outfit, and this really overweight, sweaty Beatles fangirl came up to me and kept pointing out little things like, George only had one feather in his hat. You're wearing it wrong. You don't have enough medals. Your hair doesn't look right. My hair is a lot like Kurt Cobain's down to the blonde. Screaming it into my ear, basically. Spitting on me. I wish I had a Mark Chapman behind me. Story 38. I observed this cringy South Park computer nerd-looking guy try to chat up these two girls while constantly taking pictures and asking them to pose a certain way. None of their conversation was about the characters, or cosplay, or even the event. Saw that guy 3 times that day, once taking pics behind a girl dressed as Lilu from Fifth Element. Story 39. I cosplayed Winter Soldier at a few different conventions, and generally it went pretty well for me. I'm a fairly curvy girl, hourglass curvy, not overweight curvy, but with the jacket, pants, boots, and having cut my hair shaggy to match his, along with so many bodyformers, it wasn't immediately obvious I was female. Most interactions were actually nice and pretty fun. Right after the Winter Soldier movie came out, a couple of teenage girls saw me. One started crying and went, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, but can I hug you?" I said yes, and she did, saying, "I know I'm so weird, but I just feel so bad for Bucky in the movie." I had to hug him, and we laughed again, so not bad. But then, when I went out into the food court area to take a break from walking the floor, I sat down, peeled off my goggles and face mask, and unbuttoned the jacket to relax a little. Black leather is not the most comfortable thing to wear in the deep south in August. This rather greasy dude sitting nearby, who had been sort of eyeballing me but not really saying anything, had his eyes nearly pop out of his face when became apparent. "Oh man, you're Bucky and a girl. That's so hot." I think that was meant to be a compliment, but the fact that he said that while staring at the kind of killed any goodwill it might have offered. I just sort of smiled awkwardly and immediately retreated to another table for lunch. I saw him a few more times during the day, telling other girls who were crossplaying that they were hot for playing as male superheroes. All I can say is that I hope he's come to terms with his sexuality by this point. Story 40. I was a Sylvian with a sign counter for how many times I'd been caught, and a middle-aged man dressed as Ash started making it somewhat sexual after he asked me for photos. It took him a few minutes for him to realize that I was, at that time, a high school student and very uncomfortable, but he still kept going. I was saved by my friend, but he found me later that day and apparently called me his kohai to his gang and tried to be all mentoring senpai. Needless to say, I was cringing TF out of my shoulders when he tried to convince me to make him Pokemon-style rice. I never have cosplayed another Pokemon because of that incident. Edit. Small addition. Because I see a lot of stuff about glomping included here. That happened quite a bit too, since the people apparently thought that's what capturing me meant. No, it was a play on words, as in capturing me in a photo, which would make the number ticker go up. I actually had my little purse break because of a glomper. Story. 41 years ago, I was in a group of Haruhi cosplayers. The Haruhi had an upskirt photo shared on 4chan. The series has a cute dance at the end, so we performed it. And, poor thing, I also shared a room with a random cosplayer because the hotel was expensive. I was sleeping when he came back for the night. He texted me, "You look adorable while sleeping." Harmless, I guess. Creepy, for sure. For what it's worth, I'm female. Story 42. I had a guy take stealth pictures of my feet. It was super obvious by how close he was to me, how he paused whenever I paused, and the way his camera was angled and how he held it. I got security to talk to him, and turns out he was taking pics of other girls' feet too. There was another time when a guy asked for a picture with me, and when posing he literally cupped my butt with his hand. I was too shocked and scared to say anything, but nowadays, I wouldn't let that happen. Story 43. My friends dressed up as Darth Vader and Superman and went to the first Harry Potter Deathly Hallows movie and were booed out of the theater. Pretty funny. Story 44. Not exactly cringy, but the worst interactions I've been in, are with non-con goers at events. People who hear about conventions so they show up to drink or ogle women. I've seen people feel up female costumers because they thought they were models or sluts. I've had people break props of mine because they were plastered and wanted a picture. People don't realize that we're not paid to be there. Costumes aren't cheap, easy to make, and that we're there to have fun too. I know this doesn't really get at what the question is asking, but for me this kind of behavior is 10x worse than somebody with poor social skills trying to enjoy themselves. Story 45. A middle-aged woman came up to me and told me I looked kawaii. Would have been fine if that were it, but she came and grabbed my arm, spoke quietly, and stared into my soul as she did it. Story 46. I cosplayed as Skull Kid last year. IDK in American comic Kona. But in my country, there are a lot of PPL with signs like free hugs and sometimes they do it without asking. If this wasn't cringy already, since I 3D printed the mask, the pointy ends were, well, very pointy. When some weeb hugged me without asking for it, they usually got stabbed by the mask and laughed it in an uncomfortable way and ended the hug as soon as possible. Story 47. The only time I ever cosplayed, I cosplayed one of the Love Live characters' school uniforms. Blazer, white dress shirt, and really short skirt. Literally 5 minutes after showing up to the convention, I turned around on the escalator and caught the dude behind me trying to look up my skirt. Story 48. I used to cosplay a few years back. I went to a Comic-Con cosplaying as a character from my favorite series, Mahu Sensei Nagima, which means I was in a generic schoolgirl outfit. I was actually at Spike Spencer's artist table, just having a conversation with him and his bodyguard, fangirling on the inside, when this rando comes up to me and asks for a pic. Sure, why not? I'll tell you why not. As soon as I step away from the table, this guy gets so close to me that I could smell his breath and says, "You have some really nice boobies, did you know that?" Now, I am 5'1" and 100 lbs, while this guy was a good foot taller than me, and overweight. This guy pissed me off so bad that my reaction was to push him with strength I never knew I had, which made him stumble backwards and into the table behind him. I looked pissed as all guy looked shocked and confused before he speed walked away. Story 49. I dressed up as Jacket from Hotline Miami. So I'm having a good time, then I run into some dude who's also dressed as the same character. We hit it off, take a few photos, have a few laughs, tell a few jokes. Then the dude leans in and says, "Let's touch cocks." I do it. After he runs away, I slowly realize he meant the masks. Story 50. Not a cosplayer, but for a few years I regularly accompanied some friends to a convention in my city. Once, some TV station was doing interviews. I actually think I know which one, but I'd rather not have people Google it. And the interviewer, dressed in a super low-budget Son Goku costume, asked one of the cosplayers, dressed as the cat from Alice in Wonderland, if he could ride her. The girl was gleefully happy to get interviewed at all, got down on all fours, and he sat on her back, or pretended to, all on camera. It was horrible to watch. Caused a rather big uproar in the community at the time. And the guy put out a video titled, translation here, "Apology to all mangoes. I wish I was making this stuff up." Story 51. This thread has made me realize something. I've been working my off very hard, partially because I have had a dream of cosplaying as Jasper from Steven Universe. I'm still going to work to that goal, and I'm still going to consider trying to get a good costume together. But I'll be goddamned if I'm going to a convention with these fucking animals. Edit. I will consider it. I'm getting a lot of positivity and good feedback about conventions, which I really do appreciate. I wonder if I can make Jasper's taser out of a regular taser for my costume, just in case. Story 52. Not exactly cosplay related, but still very cringy. I was in line to meet the cast of RWBY at NYCC. This guy behind me starts talking to me. First, just normal small talk. He says, "Man, check out the size of this line." I say, "Yeah, I guess a lot of people came here to get pictures with them." Then he pulls out his phone and says, "Yeah, I already got pictures of Lindsay Jones. I saw her, so I started snapping them." And then he proceeded to show me the blurry pictures he took of her from behind. Looked as if he was tailing her. The line ended up being cut off right after me. I was thankful. Story 53. I guess one could call this cringy, but I thought it was rather cute in a way. I was cosplaying as Mettaton X from Undertale, and my friend was in a partial fursuit as Funtime Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's. Two rather cringy fandom. Anyways, I was her fursuit handler that day, and as we were walking about the con, I heard this voice just go, "OMG, Mettaton and Funtime Foxy are friends." I turned around and there was this, I don't know, 10-year-old kid dressed as Frisk from Undertale. He got so excited and asked for a selfie with us, which we gave, spoke to us only in character, and gave us his deviant art. I thought it was cute, more than anything. He just seemed to be having such a great time. Story 54. Okay, so, I'm about to go to my very first con, and now I'm kind of freaked out about other cosplayers, especially who get too into character. I've spent the last 2 weeks trying to get my impersonation nailed, and now I'm thinking people will consider me a creep with my cosplay. Story 55. When cosplay wasn't as mainstream, I was Pai Mei one Halloween. Drunk girl asked me if I was Splinter from TMNT. Was an odd night. Another random girl came into the bar, grabbed me, and threw me against the wall and tried to kiss me. Then I won a costume contest I didn't even enter.